and I was 32 years old the night I learned that love can look exactly like a business transaction if you listen closely enough. I have always believed in grand gestures. When I love completely. When I commit entirely. For 3 years, my world revolved around my boyfriend, Daniel Mercer. I thought we were building something solid, something adult, something permanent. So I decided to make the grandest gesture of my life. Last night was our 3-year anniversary. I booked a table at Aria, one of those impossibly exclusive restaurants where the tasting menu costs more than most people's rent, the kind of place where the lighting is dim enough to flatter lies. In my jacket pocket was a velvet box. Inside it sat a 3-carat diamond ring, $30,000. Day 6 of a 7-day full refund policy. I told myself the timeline didn't matter, but it did. I wanted the proposal to be romantic, but I also wanted to secure my investment in what I believed was our future. Daniel had been restless lately, talking about property listings, luxury condos. "We deserve to level up, Bree," he kept saying. I thought he meant us. The evening started perfectly. The food was art. The wine was decadent. The ambiance felt cinematic. Our waitress, Sarah, was attentive and professional, but I noticed something behind her eyes. Exhaustion, maybe fear. On my way to the restroom, I passed an open service corridor. Sarah was turned away from me, whispering into her phone. "I don't know how we're going to make the payment. Mom's next treatment starts Tuesday. I just need a miracle." Her voice cracked. Something tightened in my chest. Luxury on one side of the swinging door. Desperation on the other. I stood there longer than I should have. Then I continued to the restroom. As I washed my hands, I heard Daniel's voice from the adjoining men's restroom. The acoustics were strangely clear. He was on speakerphone. "Oh, she's definitely doing it tonight," he said, his voice light and amused. "She's been nervous all evening." A woman's voice, his ex, Chloe, came through the phone. "Did you see the box? Is it huge?" "I haven't seen the ring yet," Daniel replied. Then he laughed. It wasn't the laugh I knew. It was sharp, cold, almost impressed with himself. "But the box is definitely heavy. She thinks a big rock is going to lock me down forever." "Well, won't it?" Chloe teased. And then he said it. "Of course not. I'll say yes. I'll play the part. Post it everywhere. Let her feel like she won. Give it a few weeks. Then I'll ghost her." My breath stopped. "I can sell the ring for at least 20 grand. That's my condo down payment. She's basically financing my next move." Their laughter echoed through tile and porcelain. I wasn't his partner. I was a funding source. 3 years, reduced to a liquidation plan. I stood there with water running over my hands, feeling something inside me shift. It wasn't explosive heartbreak. It was cold clarity. I saw the chessboard. I saw Daniel, charming, strategic, waiting for his payout. I saw the ring in my pocket, not a promise, but leverage. And I saw Sarah, a woman praying for a miracle. A better grand gesture began forming in my mind. I returned to the table. Daniel smiled at me. Brilliant, rehearsed, predatory. He had no idea. We finished the main course. I let him savor every bite. Then I cleared my throat. "Daniel," I said calmly, "you've made me very happy for the last 3 years, and there's something I need to ask you." His eyes lit up. He straightened in his chair. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. I stood. The nearby tables grew quiet. I reached into my pocket. I got down on one knee. Daniel covered his mouth in a flawless performance of shock. Then I turned slightly. "Sarah," I called gently across the dining room, "could you come here for a moment?" Confusion flickered across Daniel's face. Sarah approached hesitantly. "Yes, ma'am?" I looked up at her, not at him. "Sarah," I began clearly, "I accidentally overheard your phone call earlier. I know that's intrusive, and I'm sorry, but I heard you." Her eyes filled instantly. "I know your mother is sick. I know the treatments are overwhelming." Daniel's smile had frozen. The room was silent. I opened the velvet box. The diamond caught the candlelight. "This ring," I said steadily, "was meant to represent a future I believed in." I paused. "I learned tonight that future isn't real." A ripple moved through the room. "I will be returning this ring tomorrow for a full $30,000 refund under the store's 7-day policy." Daniel whispered, "Brianna, what are you doing?" I ignored him. I looked back at Sarah. "And I would like to formally ask you, here in front of everyone, if you would accept a $10,000 tip from that refund to help your mother." Silence. Sarah began crying. Daniel looked like the air had been sucked from his lungs. "I believe," I continued, rising to my feet, "that in this life we should reward what is real. Real struggle, real love, real loyalty." Then I turned to Daniel. "And some people deserve exactly what they earn." We're done. One clap. Then another. Within seconds, the entire restaurant erupted into applause. Not for a proposal, for a demolition. Daniel stood frozen as strangers cheered. For the first time in 3 years, I saw him without the mask. Not charming, not strategic, just exposed. The manager rushed over. Is everything all right? Everything is perfect, I said calmly. I handed Sarah my business card. I'm serious. Email me your details tomorrow. I paid the bill in cash. I walked out without looking back. The taxi door closed. My phone began vibrating. It didn't stop. How could you humiliate me like that? You owe me that ring. You're insane. I'll sue you. Not a single apology. Not a single ounce of remorse. Just rage that the payout vanished. I waited. Then I replied with one message. I'm sorry you didn't get the condo down payment you were hoping for. I wish you and your future victims all the best. Then I blocked him. Tomorrow was day 7, and I had a ring to return. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I missed Daniel. Because my mind wouldn't stop replaying the way his voice sounded in that restroom. Light, amused, like he was talking about flipping a used car. Outside my window, the city hummed like nothing had changed. But inside me, something had. At 9:42 a.m., my phone buzzed with a new number. A voicemail. Daniel's voice again, only now it was softer, controlled. Brianna, listen, we need to talk. You took it too far. You embarrassed me. Call me back. No apology. No, I'm sorry I hurt you. Just you embarrassed me. I deleted the voicemail and got dressed like I was going to a meeting. Because in a way, I was. The jeweler opened at 10 a.m., and today was day 7. The sky was gray, the kind of color that makes everything look more honest. I drove myself instead of taking a rideshare. I needed my hands on the steering wheel. I needed to feel like I was controlling something. When I stepped into the jewelry store, the air smelled like perfume and money. Everything gleamed. Everything was polished and quiet. A young associate looked up with a practiced smile. Good morning. How can we help you today? I placed the velvet box on the counter. I need to return this. His smile didn't flicker, but his eyes sharpened with recognition. They always do when they see a diamond that big. Of course. Do you have your receipt? I slid it over. He glanced at the date, then the policy printed at the bottom. 7 days. Today. For the first time since the restaurant, I felt the smallest tremor of adrenaline. Not fear, just the awareness that timing mattered. If I'd waited one more day, I would have been trapped into store credit. And I realized something that made my stomach turn. Daniel's plan depended on timing too. He didn't just want the ring. He wanted it before it became irreversible. The manager came out from the back, a middle-aged woman with a calm face and sharp eyes. She opened the box, inspected the ring, checked the serial number with a loupe. Her hands were gentle, professional, like she was handling something sacred. This is within the return window, she said. May I ask, was there an issue? I met her gaze. The engagement is off. She didn't ask why. She didn't offer sympathy. She only nodded, as if she'd seen this story unfold 100 times behind glass counters like this. I'm sorry to hear that, she said, and in her voice there was just enough sincerity to make me believe she meant it. She typed something into her computer, then turned the screen slightly. Refund will go back to the original card, $30,000 even. A clean number. A clean ending to something that had been dirty for a long time. The receipt printed. She handed it to me. Done. That was it. A relationship reduced to a refund confirmation. As I walked out, my phone buzzed again. Not Daniel. An email notification from Sarah Whitman. Subject. I don't even know what to say. My thumb hovered over it for a second. I opened it right there on the sidewalk. Her message was short, like she was afraid this was a dream, and too many words might wake her up. Brianna, I'm still shaking. Thank you. I don't know if you meant it, but I'm praying you did. Here are my details. Sarah, bank information, routing number, account number. And then one last line. My mom starts treatment Tuesday. Tuesday. The word hit me like a fist because it wasn't abstract anymore. It wasn't a sad hallway whisper. It was a date, a deadline, a real-life countdown. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the email like it was a doorway. $10,000. In one version of my life, that money was a down payment for Daniel's condo fantasy. In another version, it was a chance for a woman to sit beside her mother's hospital bed without calculating the cost of each breath. I drove straight to my bank. The branch was bright and cold and quiet, the kind of place where emotions don't belong. A banker with neat hair and a neutral smile led me into a small office. How can I help you today, Ms. Hall? I need to do a wire transfer. Of what amount? I heard my own voice steady. $10,000. His eyebrows rose slightly, then he nodded, professional again. All right, do you have the recipient information? I slid my phone across the desk with Sarah's email open. As he typed, he asked gently, Is this for family? I didn't know why the question made my throat tighten. No, I said. It's for someone who needs it. He glanced at me, just for a second, like he wanted to ask more. But he didn't, because banks don't ask why you're trying to save someone. They just process the numbers. When he turned the screen toward me, I read every digit, twice. Because if I was going to do this, it had to be real. I signed. He clicked confirm. And just like that, the money left my account. It should have hurt. It didn't. It felt clean, like taking your hands out of something sticky. I walked out of the bank and sat in my car again. That's when my phone lit up with another message. Daniel, from a different number. Unknown. You can't just steal my future like that. That ring was basically mine. You promised. Promised. As if love was a verbal contract and diamonds were repayment. I stared at the message until my vision blurred with anger. Then I typed one reply. M.E. I didn't steal your future, Daniel. I stopped financing it. I blocked that number too. A few hours later, another email arrived. Sarah again. Subject, it's in my account. This one was longer. Messier. Like she'd finally allowed herself to believe. Brianna, it's there. It's actually there. I'm sitting in the break room shaking. I called my sister and we both just cried. My mom doesn't know yet. I want to tell her tonight, but I don't even know how. You don't understand what this means to us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I read it 3 times. And with each read, the part of me that still wondered if I'd gone too far in that restaurant went quiet. Because Daniel wanted to take something from me. But Sarah hadn't asked for anything. She'd only whispered into her phone, begging the universe for a miracle like she didn't even deserve to ask loudly. I stared at the email until my chest ached. Not from heartbreak, but from the strange heaviness of realizing what real need looks like. Then my phone buzzed again. A notification from social media. Someone had tagged me. And beneath it, a thumbnail of a shaky video. A dim restaurant, a woman on one knee. And my voice, clear as ice, saying, I will be returning this ring tomorrow. My stomach dropped. Because I suddenly understood something I hadn't thought about last night. Aria wasn't just a restaurant. It was a hotspot. A place where people documented everything. And Daniel wasn't done. He was the kind of person who couldn't lose privately. He would try to win publicly. I clicked the video. The caption read, Engagement gone wrong? Woman tips waitress $10,000 instead? And the comments were already exploding. By the time I got home, the video had over 50,000 views. Someone had captured the entire moment, from the second I went down on one knee to the applause that followed Daniel's expression collapsing in real time. It was surreal watching myself like that. Calm, measured, almost detached. I didn't look heartbroken. I looked decisive. The comments were a battlefield. Queen behavior. This is savage. That guy must have cheated. No way that's the full story. And then Daniel posted a long video, shot vertically, poor lighting, strategic vulnerability. His hair was slightly messy, his eyes red, but not quite swollen enough to be convincing. I never thought I'd have to do something like this, he began, voice trembling just enough. But after what happened, I need to tell my side. I sat on my couch and watched. He never mentioned the restroom. He never mentioned Chloe. He never mentioned the condo. Instead, he painted a different picture. Brianna has been unstable lately, he said carefully. She's been paranoid, accusing me of things that aren't real. Last night, she had some kind of break in the middle of dinner. She started talking about conspiracies and betrayal and then humiliated me in front of an entire restaurant. My jaw tightened. He leaned closer to the camera. I loved her. I was going to say yes. And she destroyed us because of something she imagined. Imagined. The word was surgical. Gaslighting, now with ring lighting. He ended the video by whispering, "Please respect my privacy during this painful time." Within 20 minutes, the video had 20,000 views. For a moment, doubt crept in. Not about what I heard, but about perception. Truth doesn't matter if it's drowned out by performance. Then the comments started shifting. I was there. This is not what happened. Stop lying. One username stood out immediately. At City Eats Official, a local food blogger with nearly 300,000 followers. We were seated 2 tables away. The woman was calm and articulate. She didn't scream. She publicly offered the waitress financial help. The entire room applauded. Another comment appeared. I filmed part of it. There was no psychotic break. He looked shocked because he got exposed. And then the restaurant's official account posted a story. A simple photo of their dining room with fresh floral arrangements. The caption read, "We were honored to witness an act of profound generosity in our dining room this week. We wish our team member Sarah and her family strength and healing." They tagged me. They didn't tag Daniel. The tide turned fast. Screenshots of his video were stitched side by side with clips from the restaurant. Commentary accounts picked it up. Was he trying to scam her? Did she catch him planning something? Why is he not addressing what she overheard? He hadn't anticipated witnesses. He'd assumed the narrative belonged to whoever cried first. I watched his comment section mutate. Support turned into skepticism. Skepticism turned into accusation. He deleted the video within 12 hours. But the internet never forgets. Clips were already reposted. Reaction channels dissected his micro-expressions. One creator slowed down the footage of the proposal and zoomed in on Daniel's face when I mentioned the refund policy. His pupils dilated. His jaw clenched. The title read, "That's not heartbreak, that's lost money." I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt tired. Because this wasn't a game to me. It was 3 years of my life reduced to hashtags. That evening, my phone buzzed again. An email notification. Not from Daniel. From a law firm. The subject line was formal, cold. RE, formal notice of intent to pursue legal action. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. The PDF attached was thick, 12 pages, language designed to intimidate. It claimed that the engagement ring constituted a promised gift, that I had created a reasonable expectation of transfer, that by failing to deliver it, I had breached a verbal contract. And then, intentional infliction of emotional distress, public humiliation, reputational damage. They demanded I pay Daniel $30,000 within 10 business days, or they would file suit. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. Daniel couldn't win emotionally. He couldn't win publicly. So now he was trying to win legally. But what he didn't understand was this. You can't sue someone for not giving you something you plan to steal. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. His name is Richard Hale, and Richard does not lose. He called me within an hour. "I've read it," he said, "and I haven't enjoyed something this ridiculous in months." I leaned back in my chair. "Am I in trouble?" "Brianna," he said calmly, "a gift is not legally transferred until possession changes hands. You never gave him the ring. There was no completed proposal. There was no acceptance. There is no contract." "And the emotional distress?" Richard chuckled. "There are dozens of witnesses praising your composure. If anything, he should be thanking you for the free publicity." I exhaled slowly. "Can we counter?" "Oh, we absolutely can." There was a shift in his tone now, sharper. "If he wants to make this public, we'll make it very public." "How?" "We respond formally. We dismantle every claim. And then," he paused, savoring it, "we inform his counsel that our defense will rely heavily on testimony regarding a premeditated plan to obtain a high-value asset under false pretenses." Silence. "You mean the restroom conversation?" "Yes, under oath." My pulse quickened. "If he proceeds," Richard continued, "we will depose him and the woman he was speaking to. We will present it as a conspiracy to commit fraud, which, frankly, it is." The word hung in the air. Fraud. Daniel had been bold in private, but bold people crumble when forced into legal daylight. Richard finished calmly. "We'll also inform them that if this frivolous suit continues, we will countersue for legal fees, and we are very confident in recovering them." Checkmate. I approved the response. 2 days later, Richard sent it. Precise, surgical, ruthless. He cited statutes, precedents, witness accounts, and in the final paragraph he stated clearly, "If Daniel Mercer wishes to proceed, we welcome the opportunity to depose all involved parties under oath regarding their stated intent to acquire the ring for resale profit." We heard nothing back. No reply from the law firm. No follow-up threat. Just silence. Daniel had tried to bluff. And discovered I was holding the evidence. That night, I sat at my kitchen table in the quiet. The internet had moved on to its next scandal. The legal threat had evaporated. But something inside me had settled into a new shape. Daniel thought the worst thing I did to him was embarrass him in public. He was wrong. The worst thing I did was refuse to be his investment. And now, with his narrative collapsed and his lawsuit dissolved, there was only one thing left to see: who he would be without me. The silence from Daniel's lawyer lasted exactly 12 days. 12 quiet, peaceful, almost suspicious days. Then the envelope arrived. Thick, cream-colored, official. I knew before I opened it that this was his last attempt to regain control. Inside wasn't a lawsuit. It was a withdrawal. A carefully worded notice stating that his client had decided not to pursue further legal action at this time. At this time. Which is legal language for, we realized we would lose. I called Richard. "He folded?" I asked. "He sprinted," Richard replied. "The moment we mentioned depositions and fraud exposure, their tone changed entirely." I pictured Daniel reading the response letter, imagining himself under oath, imagining Chloe under oath, imagining a courtroom transcript with his voice printed in black and white. "I'll say yes. I'll ghost her. I'll sell the ring." Public record. Permanent. He wasn't built for consequences. He was built for appearances, and appearances don't survive subpoenas. Richard added one final note before hanging up. If he contacts you again, don't respond. Let him sit in the quiet he created. That quiet stretched for weeks. Daniel didn't call, didn't text, didn't email. No new numbers, no dramatic posts, nothing. But the absence was louder than anything he'd said before. Because for the first time in 3 years, he wasn't orbiting my life. And I began to notice something unexpected. Relief. It crept in slowly, like air returning to a room that had been sealed shut. Without Daniel, there were no subtle comments about upgrading my wardrobe. No sighs about how my car wasn't aspirational enough. No passive-aggressive remarks about how other couples were further ahead. It was quiet, peaceful, uncomplicated. But the world wasn't finished rearranging itself. The story of the proposal that wasn't had become local folklore. For a few weeks, when I went out to dinner, servers would glance at me with recognition. One even leaned down once and whispered, "That was legendary." I didn't feel legendary. I felt like someone who had dodged a financial ambush. Meanwhile, Daniel's social circle began shifting. Not because of me, because of him. Mutual friends started reaching out. Not dramatically, casually. "Hey, so, what actually happened?" I never gave them a performance. I gave them facts. I overheard him planning to accept the ring and sell it. That was it. No embellishment. No rage. And facts travel faster than tears. Apparently, Chloe, his ex, was not prepared for the fallout either. Word spread quickly that she had been on speaker during the conversation. People started connecting dots. Some mutual acquaintances distanced themselves quietly, because proximity to someone exposed as manipulative is dangerous. Reputation is currency, and Daniel's account had just overdrafted. I heard, through the same quiet grapevine that had once praised him, that his condo plans had stalled. Not because he couldn't afford it, but because co-signers and investors suddenly weren't enthusiastic. Trust evaporates fast when someone's character becomes public property. He had built his image on ambition and polish. Now there was a crack in the glass. And once people see behind the glass, they never unsee it. About 2 months after the restaurant, I ran into him. Of course I did. It was inevitable. It happened at a mutual friend's birthday gathering. Small, dim bar, intimate crowd. He saw me first. I could tell by the way his shoulders stiffened. For a split second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not anger, not longing. Calculation. He approached slowly. "Brianna?" His voice was carefully neutral. "Daniel." We stood there like diplomats from opposing countries. He glanced around to see who was watching. "I never meant for it to go that far," he said quietly. I waited. "That conversation," he continued, "it was a joke. Chloe exaggerates. You misheard." There it was, rewriting history. Even now. "I didn't mishear," I said evenly. His jaw tightened. "You ruined everything over one misunderstanding." I studied him. The same face I once thought I'd grow old beside. And suddenly I saw what I'd missed for 3 years. He wasn't upset about losing me. He was upset about losing leverage. "You weren't going to marry me," I said softly. "You were going to liquidate me." His expression flickered, and that was the only confirmation I needed. He leaned in slightly. "You could have just talked to me." "I did," I replied, publicly. For a moment, his composure cracked. Not dramatically, just enough. "You didn't have to humiliate me." I met his gaze without blinking. "You didn't have to plan to steal from me." Silence stretched between us. Then someone called his name from across the room. He stepped back. For the first time since that night, he looked smaller. Not defeated, just exposed. And exposure changes people. He left early. I stayed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt untethered in the best possible way. No ring, no resentment, no fear. Just clarity. But the story wasn't finished. Because 3 months after that encounter, I received something in the mail that would remind me exactly why I made the choice I did. An envelope. Handwritten address. Careful script. Return address. Sarah Whitman. I held it in my hands for a long time before opening it. Because some letters change you. And I could feel this one would. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a handwritten card. Thick paper. Slightly uneven ink, like she had paused more than once while writing. A photograph slipped out first. It landed face up on my kitchen table. Sarah was sitting on a park bench beside an older woman. Her mother. They were both smiling. Not the polished smile people use for social media. A tired smile. A grateful one. Her mother looked frail, but alive. Wrapped in a light cardigan. Sunlight catching silver strands in her hair. There was peace in that photo. The kind of peace you can't fake. I picked up the card. "Brianna, I don't know how to put this into words, but I'm going to try. My mom completed her treatment last week. The doctors say she's in remission. They're cautiously optimistic. We are too. That $10,000 didn't just pay bills. It gave us breathing room. It gave us nights where I didn't have to calculate which invoice to ignore. It allowed me to quit my second job and sit beside her during chemo instead of rushing from shift to shift. You turned the worst night of my life into the biggest blessing we've ever received. I will never forget what you did. Sarah. I read it twice, then a third time. 6 months had passed since that night at Aria. The chaos had faded. The internet had moved on. Daniel had moved out of my emotional orbit entirely. But this was permanent. I sat down at my desk and placed the photograph against the lamp. Mother and daughter, alive, together. And I realized something that hadn't fully crystallized until that moment. Daniel thought I spent $10,000 out of spite. He was wrong. Spite is loud. Spite burns hot and fast. What I felt that night wasn't spite. It was redirection. He tried to turn love into a transaction. I turned a transaction into mercy. Some people later told me I had been dramatic, that I could have handled it privately, that I shouldn't have made a scene. But here's the truth. Daniel's plan depended on silence, on me swallowing what I heard, on me being too embarrassed to expose it. He counted on my discretion. He miscalculated my dignity. In the months that followed, I heard bits and pieces about him. His condo plans stalled. His social circle shrank. Chloe and he reportedly stopped speaking after mutual blame spiraled into arguments. No one wanted to be associated with someone who had been publicly linked to a fraud-adjacent scheme. Reputation is fragile, and once it cracks, it doesn't reseal cleanly. The last I heard, he was still in his overpriced apartment, still talking about big moves, still chasing optics, but without an investor. And that was the part that lingered with me. He didn't lose me because of humiliation. He lost me because he revealed his blueprint. He showed me who he was when he thought I couldn't hear. That's the most honest version of anyone. I never saw him again after that birthday party. Not because we avoided each other, but because once you see someone clearly, the universe stops trying to put them back in your path. Some nights, I think about how close I came to a different outcome. If the restaurant walls had been thicker, if the refund window had been over, if I had chosen confrontation instead of demonstration, my life could have been tangled in a divorce instead of a deposit slip. Timing saved me, but courage sealed it. I still have the jeweler's refund receipt in a drawer, not as a reminder of him, as a reminder of myself, the woman who refused to be someone's down payment, the woman who turned humiliation into generosity, the woman who chose clarity over comfort. The photograph of Sarah and her mother still sits on my desk. When I look at it, I don't see $10,000. I see proof. Proof that you can take something ugly and reshape it. Proof that betrayal doesn't have to rot you from the inside. Proof that sometimes the grandest gesture isn't a proposal. It's a refusal. Daniel wanted to use me to buy property. Instead, I used his greed to buy a family time. He thought he was playing chess. He didn't realize I could see the board. And when I moved, I didn't just protect my heart. I protected my future.